Forget the mathematical elegance of water displacement. The truly deep philosophical question is whether Archimedes ran through the streets of Syracuse shouting Eureka, or if he just realized mid-nude sprint that his landlord would charge him extra for the shakawa of overflowing the bathtub.
We often talk about ancient philosophers like they were dusty statues, but imagine Archimedes of Syracuse, the original, high-energy, deeply philosophical mad scientist. Born in 287 BCE, he was not just smart, he was aggressively brilliant. We're talking about a man who unified math and physics centuries before anyone thought to ask for a unified theory. He was the kind of genius who probably annoyed his neighbors just by existing. His mother probably had to yell, "Archimedes, get out of the workshop, and yalla, hurry up, dinner is getting cold, and put on some pants."
Before settling down to revolutionize warfare and hydrostatics, Archimedes studied in Alexandria, Egypt, the Silicon Valley of the ancient world. He had direct correspondence with the greatest minds, like Euclid's pupils. Imagine the intellectual pressure. You couldn't just tweet your theorems. You had to send them via extremely slow scroll mail. He must have spent years feeling intellectually superior to everyone back home in Syracuse. When he returned, it wasn't just a homecoming. It was the return of the only person who knew how to truly calculate the area of a parabolic segment. Must have made for awkward dinner conversations.
Our favorite anecdote starts with King Hiero II, who commissions a new crown. He suspects the goldsmith swapped some gold for cheap silver. The problem? How do you prove it without destroying the artifact? This is the ultimate ancient cold case. Archimedes was tasked with this impossible query. The king essentially said, "Solve this paradox or halas, you're out of a job." The pressure was enormous, leading directly to the most famous bathing experience in history.
Archimedes sinks into the public bath and notices the water level rising. Suddenly, the displacement principle hits him. Volume could be measured irregularly. The sheer, unadulterated ecstasy of this realization caused him to bolt straight out of the tub and run naked through the streets of Syracuse, shouting, "Eureka! I have found it!" Now, philosophically speaking, is true genius measured by the speed at which you abandon social norms and modesty? Absolutely. The ancient Syracusans must have looked on and muttered, "Oh, it's just Archimedes again. Shufi with this guy and his public nudity."
A solution was brilliant and simple, comparing the crown's water displacement to that of an equal weight of pure gold. If the volumes differed, the crown was a fraud. Because silver is less dense than gold, the fake crown took up more volume. It's funny how a moment of panic in a public bath led to the foundation of hydrostatics. He didn't just solve a crime, he codified the physical law, all because a king was too cheap to trust his goldsmith. It's philosophical proof that all great scientific breakthroughs are rooted in royal paranoia.
Archimedes, mastering the laws of the lever and compound pulleys, famously declared, "Give me a place to stand and I will move the earth." Now, that sounds like utter nonsense, a purely boastful claim, right? Wrong. Wait, scratch that. I need to correct myself. Mathematically, the concept is sound. He proved the mechanical advantage. The nonsense is only that the lever required would be astronomically long, extending past the moon, and we don't have a place to stand. My apologies. The math is always right, but the execution is purely theoretical. He was just showing off the power of mechanics.
To prove his lever principles were practical, not just philosophical musings, Archimedes rigged up a complex system of pulleys to launch King Hiero's enormous custom-built ship, the Syracusia, with a single hand. This ship was so massive, it was considered unmovable on dry land. He demonstrated that with sufficient mechanical leverage, even a frail mathematician could possess superhuman strength. He basically invented industrial lifting before the Industrial Revolution. Mashallah, that is some serious ancient engineering prowess.
Not all of Archimedes' work involved moving planets or detecting fraud.
Sometimes he just needed to lift water. The Archimedes screw, a device for raising water from a lower elevation to a higher one, is a perfect example of his practical genius. Used widely for irrigation and dewatering mines, it's perhaps his most enduring, non-lethal contribution to humanity. It's still used today. Imagine that, a 2,200-year-old invention helping farmers. Now that is sustainability, unlike most of the disposable gadgets we invent now.
It's important to remember that despite inventing cranes, pumps, and possibly military superweapons, Archimedes personally despised the mechanical arts. He viewed applied science as beneath him, preferring the pure, transcendent beauty of geometry. He was a pure mathematician, treating engineering like a dirty side job he only did to humor the king. This level of intellectual snobbery is truly hilarious. Imagine building a super-powered shiplifter and then going, so practical. Let's get back to calculating the area of a spiral.
In the Sand Reckoner, Archimedes tackled the truly vast, calculating the number of grains of sand required to fill the entire universe, as understood at the time. He did this not to provide a silly number, but to develop a system large enough to express any arbitrary quantity. He basically invented modern notation for exponents and giant numbers, all because some philosophers claimed that infinity was unknowable. He proved that even infinite sand could be counted. Voila! Talk about setting the bar high for a casual Tuesday afternoon project. While he had many monumental discoveries, Archimedes considered his greatest achievement the derivation of the formula for the volume and surface area of a sphere, demonstrating its perfect relation to the cylinder circumscribing it. This was his magnum opus, his Mona Lisa. He was so proud, he requested that an image of a sphere inscribed in a cylinder be etched onto his tombstone. This is the ultimate symbol of a mathematician's ego. Instead of a nice portrait, put geometry on the grave.
Fast forward to the Second Punic War. The Romans, led by General Marcus Claudius Marcellus, arrived to lay siege to Syracuse. Marcellus thought it would be a quick, easy conquest. He failed to account for one factor: an 80-year-old man who hated being interrupted while drawing circles. Archimedes switched roles from abstract thinker to city defender, turning the entire city into a giant, mathematically optimized weapon of mass destruction.
The Romans were met not by swords, but by science. The Claw of Archimedes, or the harpage, was a terrifying creation. Giant crane arms that extended over the walls, snagged Roman ships, and then violently shook or dropped them. Imagine being a Roman sailor, suddenly realizing your entire warship is being lifted out of the water by an invisible force, only to be smashed back down. The Romans were literally defeated by physics. It was the world's first instance of a naval war fought purely with mechanical engineering.
The most spectacular, though debated, weapon was the alleged burning mirror. Legend holds that Archimedes used an array of polished shields or mirrors to focus the sun's rays onto Roman ships, setting them ablaze. Did it actually happen? Probably not. The logistics are complicated. It's likely a massive exaggeration, but the image of an 80-year-old man sitting on a wall, silently incinerating invaders with sunlight, is peak philosophical defense. Did it work? Wallahu a'lam. God knows best, but it certainly terrified the Roman troops.
General Marcellus, frustrated by being outsmarted by a genius octogenarian, allegedly joked that Archimedes used his scientific machines to fight his legions like a 100-handed giant. Marcellus had enormous respect for the man and gave strict orders that Archimedes was to be captured unharmed. Philosophically, it's a beautiful thought. Even in warfare, true genius commands admiration. He wanted to parade Archimedes, not kill him, but destiny, as always, had a darker, more ironic plan. Syracuse eventually fell due to a betrayal and lax defense during a religious festival. It's always the party that ruins everything. As Roman soldiers poured into the city, Archimedes, completely oblivious, was drawing complex geometric diagrams in the dirt or sand. He was utterly engrossed, probably solving the area of a parabola for the 10th time. A Roman soldier approached, likely ready to loot, but Archimedes only saw an obstacle to his work.
When the soldier commanded him to follow, Archimedes famously uttered his final words, "Noli turbare circulos meos." Do not disturb my circles. This enraged the soldier, who immediately killed him, ignoring Marcellus's orders. This is the ultimate philosophical tragedy-comedy, a man who literally prioritized pure geometry over his own survival. He died exactly as he lived, a brilliant, self-absorbed nerd who couldn't be bothered by the messy reality of the world.
Archimedes' legacy is monumental, influencing everyone from Descartes to Newton. He didn't just invent things, he demonstrated the underlying philosophical unity between abstract math and physical reality. He proved that even complex chaos can be solved with a simple equation, or sometimes just by running naked. So next time you calculate the volume of a sphere or use a screw pump, remember the guy who preferred death over erasing a diagram. He taught us that true knowledge, even when slightly humorous, is the most powerful force in the universe.
What?